Having concluded discussions on Jupiter, it now becomes important to move on to the next stage of planetary evolution. That is chronicled or characteristic of Saturn. Jupiter was the ionization stage of planetary development. Saturn is the deionization stage, or the beginnings. In discussions on Jupiter, it was realized or discussed that the reason why Jupiter, or what Jupiter has around it, is a series of ions which have come from the center planet, which used to be Mars. This ionization of firstly iron ions, iron sulfate, iron chloride, iron trioxide, iron dioxide, creates the characteristics brownish, bluish, dark, reddish colors of Jupiter. This process continues. Now, critical to this process is the energy. The energy would come from the fusion and fission process, which would have gone on tremendously within the planet, but which is now in remnants. So there would be a small amount of heat generally within the planet and energy, and that in the form of magnetism would be what would be catalyzing the ionization process of Jupiter. As the level of energy becomes less, the planet is no longer able to provide the level of energy required to keep all of the ions intact. So what happens, based on Lorenz Force Law, is that the north-south configuration of the magnetic field creates an east-west configuration of the rings, because Lorenz Force Law states that in a magnetic field, the ions exist at a perpendicular to the direction of the magnetic field. So it means that as the magnets, or as the planet gets reduced in size, that what happens is that the field in general that it can control becomes reduced, because less of the magnetic field is intact. So what you have remaining is the latter part of the magnetic fields of the iron ions, which is north-south. And as that gets reduced, all of the iron ions which are not held by that magnetic force are dissipated. And what happens is that the remaining iron ions, which are in a magnetic ring around the planet, are held. So as a result, you have the top half and the bottom half, less the middle, is kept intact, and the planet appears to have rings. This, therefore, is the area where most of the attraction is, and it continues in a cyclical format around the planet. Any of you who have a chance can research Lorenz Force Law, and the examples that I use will become apparent to you why there are rings around Saturn. This is an interesting component because it moves the planet now to a reduction of the magnetic field. And you will see that from Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, this is what happens in a continuous format. So the primary ferromagnetic element which is being dealt with Saturn losing its energy, is that of iron. And iron with the corresponding colors gives Jupiter its colors. And those colors which Jupiter has are iron compounds, which, although it is not available around the entire planet, would have a significance in the coloration of the planet, and you can look at the ions and understand that those would be the colorations of the compounds. As we move on, we recognize that the total reduction of the magnetic force in Saturn will create a situation where there is a complete dissipation of the rings. This would be obvious in the next planet. And this next planet that we're going on to, being Uranus, would be exhibiting the corresponding colors. But we will deal with that at that point. It is now important for us to understand that that transition means that at the end of the process, where Saturn moves on to the next level of planetary evolution, it means that all the ions and the magnetism that will be exhibited by the ions within the ball that I would say used to be Mars and used to be Jupiter would have dissipated. So the next element, which would be obviously coming to fore, would be the next element as far as ferromagnetic strength, which would be cobalt. So being that the magnetic force of iron is no longer present in the magnetic field, the predominant or the dominating magnetic power will be cobalt. And so cobalt's arrangement would be east-west, which means that because iron was responsible for the north-south configuration, if you want to put it that way, the east-west configuration would mean that the north pole of the planet or the planetary system would be in a position where the west pole should be, and the south pole would be in a position where the east pole would be. So therefore, the cobalt ions would then rotate in a north-south direction. This means then that the rings on the next planet would be north-south. So that would be what I think as far as the planet is concerned. But basically we start moving on to that. And the important thing to understand at this point is the planet is decomposing and it's giving off all of the different elements, but in stages. So the completion of the process of Saturn is the completion of the element iron from Mars to Saturn through Jupiter, and getting rid of all the iron magnetic force and the ferromagnetic force or the Curie magnetic point of the iron ions. This is a very interesting component, and it's a component which is critical to understanding how the planet becomes in eventuality a dead planet, or a planet which has no more magnetic force but only has a certain element remaining. This certain element will be obvious as we achieve the completion of this process, and it will help you to understand why there is a requirement that a planet be looked upon as not dead, but as a planet which is completing its evolutionary stage. So it would be similar to a human being, fleshed out, decomposing, and then only the skeleton left.